and it would be true. And if you wanted to defend yourself, you better show up. 2 people came, my husband and my dear friend Susan right there. So they're going to keep me honest. But here's the deal. We all know. Can I move this?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And this is kind of, there we go. We all know that relationships run their course, right? And sometimes 2 people just need a new beginning. Hopefully it won't be true with me and my husband tonight. But as you just heard, I work for a nonprofit, and this nonprofit serves the social and emotional development of teenagers. And that's a big job. And one particular school, because we actually go into the high schools here in Nashville, one particular school said, oh, you know what? This would be a great time to serve those deep, social struggles and emotional needs of kids. Let's just throw this in during lunch. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I get to go in the cafeteria and drag kids away from all the social and a lot of emotional stuff that's already going on in there. And I'm going to engage them in life-changing work if they just, give me 5 seconds of their attention. Now, that was hard. But I've been doing this a long time. So I had a secret weapon. I decided I'm going to McDonald's. I'm going to walk into that cafeteria with bags of cheeseburgers and McChickens, and that is my superpower. So it was one of those days. We were going to a high school not far from here, Overton High School, and so I was hitting the drive-thru at McDonald's, gave the order at the speaker, pulled up to the first window, paid for my meal. It was pretty big. It was a big order. Then I pulled up to the second window, and the poor McDonald's worker, this guy was looking a little distraught. He goes, ma'am, your order's not ready yet. And then he kind of did that side lean into the car, like, how many people does she have in there with her? She'd probably see 5 of Barbara's kids or somebody in there with me. And instead, I'm by myself, and he kind of gave me a look. I said, dude, I'm not eating this all myself. I work with teenagers. I had to kind of clear that up. And the guy in McDonald's window said, oh, for real? Oh, man, I want to work with teenagers. I'm like, well, I'm sitting here waiting on food. Come go with me. I'm heading to Overton High School right now. And he goes, no, really? I went to Overton High School. I was like, oh, cool. We got time to kill. So I said, so when did you leave there? And he didn't say graduate, but he did say he left there he said, oh, I left there about 2003. And then and I was like, oh, okay, because I've been doing work with teenagers, and I know a lot of people at a lot of schools. So, and then he goes, yeah, I played a little basketball there in my day, that kind of, you might have heard of me, tone of voice. So I said, okay, we got time to kill. I'm waiting on my food. So I said, oh, well, what's your name? And he said, Shaw. And in that second, my heart kind of started fluttering a bit. And I was afraid to say, are you? So I said, do you know Michael? And he goes, I am Michael. And I said, Michael, 20 years ago, you broke into my house and robbed me. And he did kind of what you just did. But he went, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I need to talk to you. I went, yeah, that would be a good start. And he goes, no, I remember you were over there, the house, and I said, right over there, I still live there. And I said, I remember that. He goes, oh my gosh, I do need to talk to you. Then he goes, but I'm going to need you to pull forward because there's a long line of cars behind you now. So I pull up to that little waiting spot, in the McDonald's driveway where you wait for and I'm like, I am not freaking believing this. For years, all I had was a name and the backside of a kid's head to hear him say, guilty, Your Honor, as they were plea bargaining all these kids in juvenile detention facility one day. I wanted to be there. I didn't know this kid. He was a 15-year-old kid. I didn't know him, but he finally got the food out to me, and he came out there and then he kept talking. I didn't realize what I'd started, and he kind of gave me the summary of his life, including 10 years in adult prison. Finally, I had to say, I felt bad. We had a moment here, and I had to say, dude, my food is getting cold, and I got a whole bunch of teenagers waiting on me. I got to go. So we just exchanged cell phone numbers and planned to meet up, a few days later. My head was spinning. Because after that happened, that fateful day, when I realized my house had been broken into while I was dropping my own kids off at school, and I saw a glimpse of a figure in my back driveway, and a race enough came with the police that they actually got fingerprints and found the kid who had done it. I'm just like, I can't believe this, but for years and years, I decided this was no accident. I work with teenagers. He picked my house, not even knowing why he picked my house, but didn't know the kid, but we prayed and prayed, and even had my kids. We weren't at home when it happened, but my kids were really scared. If it could happen when we were gone, might it happen when we're here? And I said, well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pray for Michael Shaw, Michael Shaw, Michael Shaw every night for years and years and years. And he said, as we were parting ways, he said, I remember you specifically because you came back out of your house. As quick as I knew somebody had been in my house, I came out of my house, got in my van, and I was going to find the person who'd been in there. And he said, lady, I ducked and dived and hid behind bushes, and then finally, he thought I gave up. I said, yeah, it took me 20 years, but I found you, didn't I? So anyway, we made a plan to meet up. My husband and I were going to meet with him in a coffee shop. And I get a text, hey, I ran out of gas, but I'm coming. I might be late. So I told Jim, and I kind of knew the neighborhood because we were both still in the same vicinity that this had happened 20 years early. So anyway, I saw a car, and I said, I bet you that's Michael's car right there. I said, dadgummit, Jim, now you know what we're gonna do. Here's the deal. We're gonna go in the coffee shop, greet the guy. You're gonna excuse yourself, run back to our house, get a gas can, because we can't leave him stranded on the side of the road. I mean, for Pete's sakes, he robbed our house. We're connected. We got this bond now. So Jim said, all right, I got you. So we go in the coffee shop, and we're chatting with Michael. Jim finds a reason to excuse himself, slides out to get our gas tank, our gas can back at our house. So then finally Jim comes back, and we're talking, and he had actually told me, he goes, while I was in prison, I started writing my life story, and I never could seem to finish it. I said, dude, you hadn't met me again yet. So that's another story. So anyway, we spent time kind of catching up and heard more about his life, and it didn't have a lot of struggles. And then it came time for us to leave, and I in no way wanted to embarrass him. But I said, hey, look, we want to help you get back to your car and get to a gas station. So we're gonna hop in our car, ride with us, we'll put some gas in your car. And it was so interesting, y'all. At that moment, I didn't feel like I was looking at a 36-year-old guy who was having some struggles. I felt like I was looking at that 15-year-old kid. Like the kids that I work with every day. A kid who just needs a new beginning. So we got him, got the gas can, and we got to his car, got it cranked. We followed him to the gas station, filled up his car for him, and then as we're about to leave, I realized the big thing. Oops, we have to get the obligatory, I can't say the word, say it for me. Obligatory selfie, or it didn't happen, right? So I said, come here, Michael. So we got the camera, we got our selfie, ready to go, making plans for our next get together, because again, we're bonded. And so as Jim and I were walking back to our car, I realized Michael wasn't walking with us, and I turned back, and he was just kind of standing there. So I went over and said, man, are you okay? And he goes, well, I forgot something. And I'm like, you already thanked us for the gas. And he goes, no, not that. He said, I realized what I put you and your family through. And he said, I forgot to apologize. Jim and I looked at each other, then we looked at Michael and said, Michael, we forgive you. And then we turned to walk away again. He's still stuck there. I said, are you okay? And he goes, that's never happened to me before. I said, dude, you've never had to apologize before? He said, no, I've never been forgiven. We looked at Michael, and I realized something. Michael and I had become acquainted in a way I would have never chosen. But in that moment, I felt maybe it was Michael and I who were chosen for something bigger than either one of us knew. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know this, it's just the beginning. Thank you.